All right. So let's get to it. Last 2 weeks ago, I had asked Nico if he was boycotting the NFL. You remember that? Do you remember I asked that question?
I did. I was like, what?
And your response to me was...
When the players do.
When the players do.
That's actually not what I said. I said, are the players boycotting?
The question was, are the players boycotting?
Yeah.
And I thought that was curious because then I'm like, I had to stop and think, should they be the ones boycotting? What does that mean if they boycott? Now, fast forward in the news cycle, I'm watching all the like players taking a knee in various situations. We got some guy playing baseball taking a knee. You see that?
Yep. First one. Yeah.
This morning I saw the entire Steelers are staying in the locker room during the national anthem.
Word?
Yeah. So I guess we don't have to boycott anymore.
There we go. I also saw that the owner of, I think it was the owner of the Jags, locked arms with all the players during the national anthem. Like the owner came down. Yeah.
Is the owner white? I mean, he has to be white. That's your question.
Say, what other color would he be?
I don't think there's any colored owners in the NFL. I think that's just in the NBA.
Right. I'm like, wait a minute. That's a dumbass question. Mm-hmm. You're bad. Of course he's white.
Do you mean shade or
right? Is he light white? Is he dark white? But I apologize to all my white friends.
Yo, they ask us.
They do.
Right?
Same thing. Are there complexion issues in the white race?
That'd be something interesting to discuss one day.
Is there a light-skinned white person,
right?
Do they get treated slightly better than the dark white people?
I remember watching Space Jam and fucking they're on the golf course and they're talking about Larry Bird and Michael Jordan goes, Larry Bird's white. They're like, Larry Bird's not white, he's clear.
Now I'm so curious, like if that's a thing in certain countries or in the US at all, or do they just see white? Because there's complexion issues in other races for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
But here, I wonder if it's a thing.
There's like, all right.
We got to do some research on that. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. It was curious to me because I'm a firm believer of the idea of financial protests. So to me, I'm not one to join the picket line. But when you see a decline in the revenue, the money coming in, especially in like the business of sports, I think people will begin to take notice, right? But people fucking love football. You love football, right?
Fucking love football, dog. Every other sport is nothing but time in between football seasons.
People are passionate about football.
Yeah.
Well, you're a Cowboys fan, right?
I am. Well, by default.
By default.
My dad is from Dallas, so from like jump, that was what was on TV if football was on.
All the time.
So, like, I thought that was what football meant. Like the Cowboys were playing. I didn't realize there were other teams, so I was like, 9 or something.
Oh, watching football.
Like,
Cowboys.
Yeah.
Cowboys.
But no, early on before we got to the point where like more players were protesting, and last week we had our president coming after athletes.
Bruh, last week was like 2 days ago.
Last week. By the time this airs, it'll be last week.
Oh, yeah, it's true. Oh, man.
Which was crazy to me because now that means I think it will galvanize the country in support of the NFL. And a point. You don't think so?
I don't know. The Shield itself, like the NFL, the players, I think they have the respect of a lot of people individually, but like the Shield that is the NFL is something completely different. Like people who like football know that there's a difference in between the Shield and the players. And they don't really get along. Like the Shield they try to protect their brand more than they try to protect their players. That's why they make weird rules where like Ray Rice can only be out for 2 games before the video's out, and then the video's out and then he's banned for life. Or Ezekiel Elliott gets like a 6-game suspension. But last year for the Giants, there was a kicker who beat the shit out of his wife like over 32 times and he only got 1 game. Like the Shield itself is something different. I was actually really surprised that the NFL came out with a statement after Trump said his thing and we're like, we indulge like the peaceful right to protest of our players and things like that, because that's not something that the NFL usually does.
What do you think? Why though? Why did they do that now?
Probably because of all the heat that they've been getting on like both the Kaepernick thing and players being super vocal. Like you have the Bennett brothers, you have like mainstream like top players in the NFL, like their superstars are like, yo, this is an actual thing. And it's gone beyond just black athletes doing like the kneel. There's like white athletes and like teams as a whole either taking a knee or like putting their hand on a player taking a knee where it's like becoming bigger, where they had to do something, because the NBA was going to make a statement. Like players in the NBA were going to do it. They're way more vocal about it. So I feel like if they did it, if the NBA did like said something as a unit, and then the NFL just didn't say anything, especially after Trump attacked like Jamel Hill, and then not just Colin Kaepernick, but like all players who knee, like then there people may have been like, you know what? That was my first time ever thinking about protesting, was after I saw the tweets yesterday, and there was like, I don't know, like a 12-hour period of no response from the NFL. The Players Association said something, but the NFL itself didn't. I was like,
right. So that made the fact that they didn't speak up against that made you feel some kind of way.
yeah, I did.
Really?
But then they did, so we're good. And I'm going to watch football all day today.
So now you're back to watching football.
100%.
Okay, but
right in the world.
Yeah.
it's curious to me because when I saw them come out with the statement, that made me kind of worried, because it made me feel like people are going to kind of like put the brakes on their protest, so to speak, at least from like the consumer standpoint. The idea that as the consumers drive the whole thing.
Right.
Definitely.
So the NFL has been in like the worst ratings since like the 80s or some shit like that.
Last season it was, but it wasn't because of football. It was because like the matchups last year, they had a lot of
What about now,
bad
though?
games playing
About
bad
currently?
games. Currently, I mean, we're only in week 3.
Still.
But like, so
There
far,
are metrics.
So far
Right,
this
things
year,
move fast.
The product has been ridiculously better for whatever reason. Like this last Thursday night game, usually Thursday night games are like two bad teams playing each other, or whenever they play in London, they've never actually had two teams over 500 play in London before. It's just the way that they match up their games didn't give a good product last year. But like this past Thursday was the Rams versus the 49ers, two bargain basement teams, and
Right.
the game wasn't supposed to be very good, maybe like a 9-13 type score. That was the best game of the year, one of the best games I've seen in like a really long time. Ended up being 41-39, and it came down to a couple plays
No, you're
every quarter.
talking about like watching the game.
Watching the game.
So that-
ratings weren't good last year because the games themselves weren't good. So I'm not going to watch 3 hours of football. That sucks.
No. However, per my research before doing this, that particular game,
Mm-hmm.
they were trying to sell tickets to that game, and they were like equivalent costs of like 2 pretzels,
Yeah,
right? Because fools
Definitely.
were not going to the game.
they weren't going to the game.
So you're saying it was a fun game to watch for you as a avid fan of football, right?
No, even if you weren't an avid fan of football, that happened to be a just really good game.
I'm speaking from you as a person who watches football.
Okay, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, now I don't watch football.
Yeah.
So I may watch any game with two random teams, the Blues versus the Yellows, right? And it's going to be a good game or not.
Right?
The Blues versus the Yellows. You sound like my grandmother.
I mean, hey, it is what it is.
Does the red team have the ball? Mom, they play tomorrow. Go downstairs.
That's all it's. And I'm saying that because I'm not a fan of football like that.
Yeah.
I'll watch a game, Blues versus Yellows, and enjoy it and clap for both teams when someone catches the ball. Wow, that's cool, right? But I don't care. I just don't care.
Yeah.
So it's easy for me to sit here and say we shouldn't watch it. But for people who just love football season when it begins,
Bruh.
hard for them,
Love it.
right?
Yeah. I had to have this convo with a couple of my friends, actually. I play in multiple like flag football leagues and stuff. And before the season started, one of my homies who actually played college ball, he played at Indiana. He was like, I'm boycotting this year. And I was like, word? And he's like, yeah, I just can't, like, I feel the movement or whatever. I'm going to boycott the NFL because financial protest is probably one of the strongest forms of protest. And I was like, I don't know if I can do that.
Really?
Yeah, I just don't. Nah. And I'm a Raiders fan, and like we just got good. You know what I'm saying? Like we had 12 years of suckiness. You could ask me to boycott then. I'd be like, for sure, because we're ended up like 3-12 and or 3-13 and just ended up being horrible. But now we're good. I waited so long. I went through the trials, through the fire, and came out the other side. And now we're a Super Bowl contender. I gotta watch.
It's crazy to me though, because like as we're talking about this, it reminds me of the Chick-fil-A incident. Do you remember the Chick-fil-A incident at work? Okay, so I'm going to tell you guys a backstory. What? Yeah. So as we know, Chick-fil-A is not fucking with homosexuals, to put it plainly.
Kind of like changed that stance, but for a while they were.
For a while. All right. So during that time, I couldn't in clear conscience eat Chick-fil-A.
Really?
Couldn't do it. And I say that because my thing is when it comes down to it,
nil.
when it comes down
And
to
I don't even like Chick-fil-A like that.
it doesn't, but it's not about me. It's about my gay friends who want to marry, right? So if I'm hanging out with them and I support them in their desire to marry, their legal right to marry, and there's an organization with money
and
that they can use to sway legislators. This is how deep it gets, right? If I've got all the money and I have shit else to do, and I can literally spend that money to influence law, and every time I buy a chicken sandwich, I'm putting money into their coffers to go do what they want to do. Basically, I'm militarizing them, so to speak. I'm like indirectly supporting it. In the same way that I argue people like if you like doing cocaine, understand that someone probably died for you to get it. This is not like coming from like a local lab down the street, right? If you've seen the heads taken off of bridges in Mexico, just know that like this wasn't like over something really normal, right?
Definitely.
Just know the process of where your things come from. And we as Americans can easily sit back and say, yeah, but it doesn't impact me. No, it doesn't. But if you care about society at large or any agenda period, I'm not fucking with it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't tell someone else, don't do that. But I would say, now that you know, are you still going to have that chicken sandwich?
I would.
You would.
That was a really hard time for me. I did Chick-fil-A for a couple years. Chick-fil-A is fucking delicious.
Chick-fil-A's flames.
It's so fucking
That's
good.
the thing. I don't even eat it like that, but I don't think that I would stop eating it because of their stance on homosexuality.
What if that was their stance on black people?
I don't know. Like, what do you mean? Like they
If
don't hire black people?
No, that was like blacks can't get married. New law. Drop it on the books. Boom.
New law alert.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like that's so obscure. It's hard for me to know how I'd feel.
Or
I'm not like, I don't know that getting married is like a reward.
Well,
speaking as a married man,
pick anything that you pick anything that you like, basically. Anything that like
you
that
can't get
to you.
married. Oh shucks. Well, I guess that's too bad.
think Will might be the wrong person. No offense to Will, but like Will is a pacifist, right? So to speak. So Will's is like, it is what it is.
I'm lazy, and I think that pacifists do the least. So I guess that's where I fall by default.
Because I imagine I'm going through the list of things that Will likes, and someone just like saying no more of that. We'll be like,
I just find something else. All right, well, time to get something else. Time for a change.
I guess so.
Man.
However, you live in a society where we can fight for these things, and change does come. Because people would argue that it's not worth it. And we literally cannot fight everything. Because this morning I was thinking about like my cell phone, which is probably made by some poor Asian kid with tiny hands.
When you went down to like the
handcuffs
you do cocaine, then understand that somebody died to get it. You can say that for like almost all products.
To an extent, yeah.
If you go all the way down, the production line or whatever. So it's tough. Like, where do you draw the line? Like, do you have to go live in the forest because you don't want anyone to suffer for?
That's where you try.
You got to pick and choose your battles, man, because I think you can't win them all, but there is a level of awareness, right? You're pointing at Will. Oh, I thought you were giving him the nod to say something. Because for me, when I thought about the NFL and how important it is right now, and how it's easy for me as someone who doesn't care to be like, oh, we're boycotting? Great. Let's boycott. Perfect. How many more people can I convince to boycott? And having some friends tell me like, I don't believe that it's worth doing it. I don't want to give it up, or it's literally hard for me to give this up.
Literally hard for me to give this up.
Literally hard to give it up.
Yeah. Like this season I didn't do fantasy football so that I could focus on actually assisting in the wedding preparation process. Right. And I knew that I would not be able to like make dates and sit down and like help with that if I was, looking at my fantasy football stats, because I take that shit serious as fuck. If I'm in the league, I'm trying to win. There's like championship or bust.
Right.
That's it.
So this is maybe that
approach.
Maybe it made it easier for you to pseudo boycott, or at least to consider it.
You sir?
It made it. And still I was like, nah, that's the most I'll do is give up fantasy. And you're lucky I gave up fantasy world in general. That's my commitment to the cause. Yo, football is
that one's for you, universe.
Right? It's like it's the ultimate team sport, but on top of that, it's like the sport itself is amazing. And like I played, I guess, so that has something. Even if I didn't, I just love the fucking sport. It's a sick ass game.
But do you love the business?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, not at all. Not in Like, not the way that the NFL operates as an organization, not in the way the NCAA kind of like manhandles and treats NFL, like not NFL, but like football players in college. Like, no, the organization and the business, not at all. It's too big. There's so much money in it, and it's so specialized into two specific organizations that they really make all the rules, and they don't make it for the players. You know what I mean? They make it for themselves in order to keep their own money. The fact that this game, like if you think about the NFL or any sports teams at all, they're literally hobbies of the owners. Like the owners have like real jobs.
Literally.
You know what I'm saying? And it's literally their hobbies. And outside of that, taxpayers still have to pay for stadiums. Like I'm like, what the fuck?
Right.
Why? Like if you don't care about football,
rich person's hobby.
and like you don't care about football, why are your taxes going up and the city is giving, I don't know, $600 million to throw into the NFL's $200 million, and then the owner might throw in another $500 million to build a new stadium that you probably won't go to. And if you do go to, you pay $20 for parking, you pay $32 for pretzels, you pay $32 for beers. I'm like, damn, I could have threw a party at the house.
Oh man,
This is true. Now you're right. I mean, the counter argument is like it is good for the local economy.
right? That's why
That's the counter argument. But if you have you looked at the stats of that?
No.
No. It doesn't have an overall. It doesn't have that big of an increase or impact on the city at large when it comes to the people who live in that particular city. Most of the money that you're going to get is like tourism money, and that kind of depends on where your stadium is. Like when the Rams were in St. Louis, like cats weren't flying to St. Louis to watch a Rams game.
No, but they left not too long ago.
Yeah, they left 2 years ago.
Okay.
To come here.
So I remember watching a documentary about the departure of the Rams and the impact it had on the city.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you do have. There's still money behind
Well,
it.
there's like jobs,
No, definitely.
right?
Yeah, there's a lot of jobs.
I
and
feel like a
stuff
whole
that
bunch of
flows out
people
that.
lost their jobs when they left because now there's no team to sell popcorn. Do you know what I mean? Like that.
But like,
Those
how many popcorn sellers are there?
in a small city, I don't know, probably a decent amount.
If the city only has football as their thing to do.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I'm saying? Like
You know what I mean?
after going to Ohio and seeing small cities and seeing like there being like 4 options for jobs. You know what I mean? Like,
Popcorn salesman, stripper.
right. But like in the larger markets,
Meth
that's
cook.
not as big, I think. You know what I'm saying? Like
Of course.
the Raiders moving to Vegas. Like Vegas was going to make money anyway.
Right.
When OKC left Seattle, like Seattle didn't crumble, and LA has gained and lost 3 teams at 3 different times. You know what I'm saying? And
that's LA.
is
We're
still
gonna survive
moving.
regardless.
We have 2 football teams right now, and the number 1 football team in LA is still USC. I'm just saying
What does that tell you?
that the city shouldn't have spent that much money. Like Cranky could have did all of that by himself.
Facts. We'll take a quick break to reset these cameras and we'll be right back. Today's episode of Illest Podcast is brought to you by our podcast hosting providers. Now, if you think you've got the gift of gab, or if you've ever imagined having your own podcast, we can get you started. Head over to illestpodcast.com/start a podcast. Again, that's illestpodcast.com/start a podcast. Let's get back to the show. All right, we're back, and we just got an update from producer Brandon that J. Cole sent out a tweet. I'm going to read the tweet. God bless every player that finds courage to kneel today, but the real power comes from you deciding not to watch. Your eyes translate to advertising money for the league and its owners. Same ones, owners who speak out against Trump today are the same ones that denied a qualified man a job because he took a stand against injustice. You and me have the power to deny them our attention, read money to them until they make a wrong situation right. How do they make it right? I know there are people smarter than me with better answers, but here's one. And those people smarter than him with the answers are sitting right here. we have the answers. I think it does come down. So Nico, would there be a point? Nico and Will, if you have a thought, you chime in as well. But do you think there would be a point, barring our solution to use links?
Oh yeah,
Streaming links.
streaming links that come through I said Russia at first, but like we can't give them no money either.
Right.
So you know what I'm saying? Like from some other country,
Right.
You know, where they can get that instead. Like I still got to get my games in. I need my fix, man. I need my fix. But
is there anything? Is there at any point that something could happen that would make you say, you know what, never mind, I'm gonna go do something else today?
There probably is. I don't know what that point would be. They just haven't reached it. They've done so much. Like I'm not gonna lie. It's pretty bad, but
and they've done the things that they've done are not just to like not hiring Colin Kaepernick.
No, they've definitely done other things.
And so it spans across all sorts of wild stuff, right? Hiring fools who like beat women or like
definitely
fight dogs,
imploring them, right? Like sitting there, or the thing with Ezekiel Elliott, where like there was a situation with him and like an ex-girlfriend over a 3-day period where there was like domestic violence, I guess, right? So the judge was like, nah, you all right. And then the NFL was like, well, we don't care what the judge said. And even though he said that you're clear and there was no, like you didn't get charged with anything, we're going to charge you with
the country of football.
You know what I'm saying?
Our laws say
exactly for like 4 or 6 games or something like that.
Right.
And then he had to appeal it, so he's able to play right now. But because the judge was like, as a judge, we said he didn't do anything, so you as an organization have no basis to suspend him.
Right.
Yeah, they do crazy stuff all the time.
So, but there's nothing in your mind you can think of that would make you say, never mind, I'll turn this off today.
Yeah, but I can't think of it right now, so I guess no. I don't know what it would take to push me off the ledge. I don't want to, and if there was, I wouldn't want to say it out loud in the universe. And then it happens tomorrow, and then next week we're like, Nico, did you watch football? And I was like, yeah, I lied.
Like I said it, but then such and such game was on, the Reds versus the Yellows is on, I had to watch.
Shout out my Raiders. Yeah.
So nothing you can think of. Same for you, Will?
Nah, well, see, that's the thing. I'm not as attached to football. I'm attached, like, as a Cowboys fan. I follow basketball. Like, I played basketball. That's where my allegiance lies.
Okay.
So
is there anything in basketball?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Basketball's more down anyway.
That's a weird question. Like, what would it take for them to let you go? It's like, I don't know. Roger Goodell would have to...
If they made the players start wearing, like,
you know what I mean?
slave
Like,
costumes... like then no more jerseys, just like ropes,
right?
Tattered, rags. I'm like, all right, now I can't watch this shit. That's
you know what I mean.
Much.
That'd be too much for you.
Definitely,
I can put that in the universe because that won't. I don't think that'll happen.
If they like full on condone like white supremacy or something like that,
yeah,
you know what I mean. Like then I'd be like, damn. All right,
but see, I would still play. I'd go play more.
But we're talking about watching.
Yeah, we're not talking about football. We're not condoning a sport.
Definitely.
Right? We're condoning a business, an organization, basically. A lucrative organization that's making money off of it.
I'm trying to think of something reasonable, like something plausible that could happen that would cause me to stop watching basketball.
Because it's weird. It's just like some people don't watch Floyd Mayweather for that reason. He's done things that people don't like, but then other people like buy all his fights even more because they want to see him lose. You know what I mean?
For sure.
But he still gets paid regardless, and he still beat the shit out of his girlfriend at the time, like most boxers do. If you're dating a boxer, you're probably gonna get hit.
You're gonna get hit at some point.
Which is weird because the question did come up.
I mean, like
that question came up was the idea that like, why do we support Mayweather in a situation where we know he's?
I don't.
You don't. No. As a group, though.
Yeah. I like greatness. I'm not going to lie. I'm infatuated by seeing great things be great. So
I respect him as an athlete.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if I could see you do something that's never been done before, I'm going to be like, I'll check in to see you try to do something that's never been done before. Doesn't really matter the sport. It really doesn't matter the sport. In the last Olympics, I was watching archery because there's a dude who's about to win like his 4th gold medal and never happened before. And I was like, all right, check this out. Archery's not really for me. It's kind of boring. They never miss. None of them.
Boring.
None of them miss.
Just watching somebody shoot in the same spot for like 6 hours. Another bullseye. Like, yeah, well, he's been training for 4 years.
Not only that, he's been doing it like his whole life,
right?
Since he was a child to shoot this arrow.
Fair enough. Well, I guess I would get to the point where I would. For me, it's a struggle because I always want people to just think about it, right?
Yeah.
And like we were saying earlier, at some point you have nothing because if you're protesting everything, you end up like sitting like in a dirt hole somewhere, wearing like a potato sack.
Evil is everywhere,
and that's Brandon's goal in life is to be that man
in a potato sack.
In a potato sack. Like eating fucking beetles off of a tree.
Like, I've made it. I've accomplished my goal. They get nothing from me.
Off the grid, no electronics, no manufactured goods.
Hashtag winning. That's hilarious.
They probably still know where you are, though, because of satellites.
Probably, yeah. I mean, they know, but do they? At that point, do they care?
Probably not.
They don't care.
Unless you start, like, philosophizing why you're doing it. And then you get like 5 or 6 people to live in potato sacks with you. And then it turns 20, 30.
Potato sack way, and now they're not spending money.
Power.
Right.
Now you get assassinated.
Exactly.
And they make it look like it was one of your potato sack people who did it.
Right. And then it disbands, and now we're all back to watching football.
We're all so easily distracted.
Right. Wait, but he was on to something. But the Reds and the Yellows are playing.
Yeah, man. But my Reds, man. They're on fire this season.
Yeah, that's what it'd be like. Literally that.
It really is. And it is crazy because the things move so fast, right? So to see Trump come out and literally attack these players off rip.
Off rip. I think he was just trying to change the news cycle. I think my man went entirely to him on North Korea at the UN, and he was like, yo, okay, so how can I get people to talk about something else?
Right.
While we figure out if, like, what we're going to do over there. You know what I'm saying? Let's try to switch it back to something that my base can be riled up around that doesn't incite the dogs of war.
For sure. I agree, because whenever I hear these things, I'm like, this is not important.
Right.
It's not particularly news.
Yeah.
But people get so distracted by it. It's so easy to see it and just be like, oh, look what this person said.
Yeah.
Oh, let's all share memes about it. Let's post on the internet. Let's compare it to this or that. But it's not even like it's not important. I mean, it's important to an extent.
It's important because it gives you, right. It lets you know even like how quick he is to double down on bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's important in that fact. It's like, we know that all these other actual political things are going on, but you're over here mad that the Warriors said that they didn't want to come, so you disinvited them even though they already said they didn't want to come.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You fired them after they quit.
Exactly. And then now North Carolina said that they're not coming either. They were like, oh, it's like a scheduling thing. We couldn't find a free time to meet the president. But it's like you'll find time to meet the president if you want to meet the president.
Wait, I don't know this story. North
Carolina won the NCAA men's tournament last year.
Okay.
And they were like,
it's the same thing like the NBA.
They go visit the president.
Picture with the team.
Exactly. Right. And they were like, nah. Well, they said, oh, there was a scheduling conflict. We couldn't find time.
Golden State just said no.
Yeah, Golden State was like, nah,
we're good. It's all right.
Good. But like the college kids were like, we'll find, like the college kids were probably like, we don't want to go.
Yeah.
But they found a way to dress it up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Is there any benefit to a team going?
Yeah, you as an individual gets to meet the president.
Usually meeting the president is
like you know what I'm saying? It's a big
good
thing.
Yeah, but I'm saying
right? Like, is there a benefit? Yes, you get to go in the White House, take selfies with like a whole bunch of old busts and stuff, and like
right. But in the current situation,
is
it worth going?
No, that's why people aren't going. From the moment, I think like Kevin Durant, like after he won Finals MVP, like with trophy in hand, was like, "Fuck that, I'm not going." By the way,
yeah, he did say that.
Yeah. Like literally, I just did the thing I've wanted to do my whole life when I was a little kid, like practicing shots on my play school. Exactly. Like, nah, I'm not going.
That's interesting.
And I'm just trying to play devil's advocate in the idea of like, you got the invite, you know the situation you're walking into.
I wonder what team won when Bush got elected the second time.
They were going because he wasn't like, he wasn't wilding out. He was just
he was
ill prepared.
Just bad at his job.
He was just not very smart.
Right.
Exactly. He wasn't mean.
Yeah.
Right. He was just stupid.
You're like, oh,
exactly. You're like, oh, poor Bush. Right. You're in way over your head.
Like poor Jeb. Like this is the one your daddy chose for real. Like, man.
But is there any reason to go? So let's just imagine you are KD or Steph Curry, any of these people. Is there anything you can go to do to?
In the current situation?
I don't think anybody skipped Obama except for Tom Brady specifically, like by himself. But all the teams went to go see Obama when he was in the White House. Everybody had a good time. They was chilling, you know what I'm saying, taking pictures with Michelle. And then so far with Trump, there's only been 2. It's been the Patriots went, but only half the Patriots went.
Right.
Like almost all the black players were like, nah. Like,
Tom Brady was there for sure.
Yeah, Tom Brady was there. And then who else? The Cubs went after they beat the Indians. They went. That's been it so far. The North Carolina was supposed to be the next team to go, and they said no. And then the Warriors, and it was
sorry,
like, nah.
We have class.
I got my stats class and my poli-sci class on Tuesday. I can't make it. I asked the question because it is easy to not go, and it makes perfect sense to not go.
I don't know if it's easy to not go.
What?
I don't know if it's easy because like before this particular situation or this particular administration,
right?
Like going to the White House is a privilege.
I mean, you can still
being
go to the White House
invited to the White House is even more. Like you get to go through like places normal people can't. You can talk to like not Social Security, Secret Service. They won't tell you that, but like you can go to a maid and be like, yo, like where the body's buried, like where does Obama keep his henny? Like you know what I mean? Like the real questions, but and you get pictures in the White House.
So it sounds like you would have a struggle saying no.
This administration, off the rip. Nah, I'm good. I'll wait.
Zero interest.
But overall, like the White House itself is still a place people want to visit and people want to go. It's just that this administration makes it very, very easy for people to be like, I'll wait 4 years before I put my name on that list.
Well, you may not get a chance.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, it comes down to, this is maybe my only opportunity to go to the White House. But it's not about the White House. It's about seeing the president.
About shaking hands with the actual president of the United States.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's literally a photo op, a chance to like say hello, hang out, have some snacks.
Hand them the jersey that says 45 or whatever number it is. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like a big deal, but they make it a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone know what Steph Curry said specifically? I was trying to find it.
So he said it was Saturday. No, it was Friday. And they were asking him about it. And he was like, you know what? I personally don't. I don't want to go, but this is a team thing. So we'll see we'll decide as a team. Like if it was up to me, I don't really know if I would go, but since it's up to my team, like we'll go as a team. Cause Steve Kerr was like, we're going to make that decision either to go as a team or not go as a team. We're going to make it a team decision.
Right.
And Steph Curry was like, I really don't want to go, to be honest with you.
Right.
And that's why Trump literally said in his tweets, he was like, Steph Curry is hesitating, so I'm taking back my invitation. First off, everything he tweets is like goes into the archives. Like that's presidential like commentary.
Of course.
So it's gonna go into the Library of Congress, like every tweet.
It's a new day.
Bruh. He tweets outrageous stuff.
Yeah.
That's just going into the Library of Congress. I've written some fire ass 16s. You know what I'm saying? Them shit's still in my notes.
You got to make sure they get to Library of Congress. That is the goal.
That's a new goal.
Just get in an argument with Trump.
I started a GoFundMe.
Send them for no reason.
Right? Start a wave of Twitter
in the middle of the argument.
It is a crazy idea, because I'm reading about it too, right? And the teams, like you said, the teams as a whole do decide to go or not to go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy because I think about like the fact that the NBA has like a majority of black team captains or people who are leading these teams.
Yeah. I mean, it's majority black.
Yes. But specifically the people who are leading the teams in terms of the fact that in the NFL, the idea of having someone like Colin Kaepernick as like a black team captain, representing the team, like leading the flag, being in charge, wearing fucking, shaved,
being that guy,
t-shirts. And,
da, 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 da.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's a tough pill to swallow. I think it's crazy because I wonder if that was the case in the NBA, would the NBA be as supportive as an organization when any of these players do something to stand up, right? So like they were wearing the I can't breathe t-shirts. Like,
that's like the extent though, because in the 90s, I can't remember his name. There was a player who like I think he used to turn his back on the national anthem. He was a Muslim. I'm not sure if he was just a Muslim or a part of the Nation of Islam, but he used to turn his back on the national anthem, and they would ask him like, yo, can you just not come out like instead of do that? And he's like, nah, he didn't stay in the league that long. The NBA
stay in the league that long.
The NBA doesn't have any players who take a knee. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not what they do. I think as an organization, they have like tighter rules for what they can and can't do in that aspect, but they're allowed to be more vocal personally. You know what I'm saying? So like you see them at Twitter come at everybody, or you see them make statements to reporters directly, but they don't really do things at games the way that NFL players do.
Do athletes or any employed person in a public role have a responsibility to protest?
A responsibility or the ability?
A responsibility. We all have the ability. I can go to my former job and be like, yo, the black people, and take a knee at the coffee machine, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
She's like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm protesting injustice.
I'm trying to get to this.
And these
can you please move?
Arabica beans?
Right. that's not going to be as impactful. Obviously, I can do that, yes. But in a situation where we have athletes who, one, have a job, right? So there's a question of like, you're employed by this company. In the same way that old girl tweeted out about Trump. I forgot her name. Jemele Hill tweeted out about Trump. And ESPN was just like, full stop. We're not. Yeah. They just weren't having it.
Like, we're not related. Like, she said those things, but they're not the, what do they say? They're not the ideas or thoughts of
the corporation. But they didn't say that in this case. ESPN went out of their way to say that she was talked to. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So ESPN wasn't like, these are her views, not ours. They were like, no, she can't talk like that. We've talked to her, and she had to come out and like do a lightweight cleanup.
She did clean up. If you notice, she didn't apologize.
She didn't apologize.
She was like, "This Twitter handle is branded by ESPN." So you know,
say, well, because if you do it like on your work platform, then you have to do it, you know, based on their rules.
Right.
But it's weird though.
Personal Twitter handle.
That was her personal Twitter handle. Her Twitter handle isn't branded like Michelle Hill ESPN. It's Jemele Hill. But her bio is like co-host of
ESPN's blah blah blah.
Yeah, that type of stuff, and like all she mainly tweets stuff about sports reporting.
Right.
Well, I guess that's the risk you run if you use your personal account for work stuff. If she had her own, if she kept it separate, then she could have maybe, you know, not gotten into that situation.
Right.
But I mean,
I think the crazier thing is the fact that the White House was like, "Yo, she should be fired."
Yeah, that was a bit much.
Are you serious?
Right.
Yeah, extreme.
Why are we talking about this? Like, shouldn't you be making sure that my man isn't drunkenly handling the football? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
beer down.
It was empty.
Okay, good. No, it's crazy because the fact that they said that goes against the whole idea of free speech.
Mm-hmm.
It's very un-American to say you should be fired for that.
Definitely.
Right? It's okay. The White House shouldn't say stuff like that. So, okay, well, say what you want to say. But
this is why no one wants to visit.
This is why we don't want to hang out with you guys.
Visit.
Say crazy shit.
Right. But it's, for me, and when I think about a job and the fact that, like, if you're a public figure, I remember thinking about how Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan were very adamant about, like, not getting involved in things like that. Mm-hmm. Right. So Michael Jordan was like, white people buy Jordans too.
Yeah.
Right?
That's like a famous line.
Yes. And I remember hearing all these stories about Jordan. It made me look at my Jordans like, yo, I'm not sure if I can really wear these. Like, I had this real moment. I love the retro ones. That's like the most of my shoes are Jordan ones, right? And as I hear these stories, I'm like, yo, man, like, I'm not sure if I can rock with these. And it put like a stop on my desire for Jordans, right? So I still like Jordans. I just haven't bought any since then. It made me think, like, okay, well, what is there?
Really?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I say that because it's one thing to like not get involved. It's another thing to be so prominent and just like,
yeah,
fuck
it.
Basically,
yeah. You should just go buy some bronze because go buy some Soldier 11s or some Soldier 15s because LeBron is constantly talking about politics. He stumped for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And like since then, he talks about injustices all the time. He called Donald Trump a bum on Twitter. That was amazing. I woke up and I saw what Trump said, and then the next one was like, LeBron was like, "You bum," and I was like, that was great. I needed to see that. Thank you.
Because you just watch more basketball and less football.
No, the Soldier 15 is dope.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm gonna get any LeBron Jets. I might get some Curry Under Armours first before I get some.
I was gonna say I'm
some walking shoes.
I'm getting the new Currys in October.
Oh God!
I might get some big baller brands before I get some.
I get some big baller brands before I got some Currys.
I'm getting them to play. I'm getting them to play in though. Like I don't wear basketball shoes
with politics.
No.
You're not making political statements with your shoes?
Nah, man. I just need ankle support. I got old ankles, man.
Like, these Air Magas got the best like ankle support.
Oh, man.
These Maga 45s.
I'm surprised he hasn't tried to brand that yet, dog. He tries to sell everything. Also, Maga 45 does sound like a sick-ass shoe.
It does.
Oh, my God.
All right. We'll take another break.
Man.
When we come back, we'll have his Air Magas on.
Right. 2 pairs. Red and yellow.
Today's episode of Illest Podcast is brought to you by our podcast hosting providers. Now, if you think you've got the gift of gab, or if you've ever imagined having your own podcast, we can get you started. Head over to illestpodcast.com/start a podcast. Again, that's illestpodcast.com/start a podcast. Let's get back to the show. Okay, Nico, you were about to tell us. The question was, what do we think will happen to Kaepernick?
I had a hot take. And
You had a hot take. Well, it came down to him being a sports martyr.
Oh yeah, what I think is, I don't know if he'll get a job this season, but I think it would be smarter for them to let him in than not, especially because of the type of people that they still have in. Like, he's not in the league right now because of his political beliefs, but the league continues to hire people who are abusive. You know what I mean? That's just a known thing. People who break their rules all the time for either drug paraphernalia, hit and runs, stuff like that. There's countless people like that, and people deserve second chances. So I don't understand why he doesn't have one. But outside of that, I think that he'll be a sports martyr if he doesn't. And I like the fact that the conversation now is about more things than it was in the past. It's not just about taking a knee. For the first time ever, I'm hearing people talk about and thinking about myself, like, one of the first things people say is, and Trump said it too, he was like, disrespecting the American flag and our troops. And I'm sitting here like, I've sat through multiple national anthems, and I don't ever remember in school learning the national anthem and they said, oh, this is the theme song for the military. Like, I don't remember that being a thing where like the national anthem specifically is just for them. Like, I thought it was for us. I thought it was for everybody.
Right,
you know what I mean? Like, I thought it's the national anthem, not the Army's anthem. You know what I'm saying?
Not
like,
the Army fight song.
Exactly. Exactly. So like, people say that by taking a knee, you're disrespecting the military. And I'm like, first off, how? And secondly, the conversation is going back to he was protesting injustices, and the people who are taking a knee are doing that in support of him, but they're also protesting injustices by police officers for not only black and brown people, but like white people as well. Any person who is being objectified by the police, and specifically, you know, black and brown peoples of the world who are being incarcerated at alarming rates for no reason in the United States of America. Seems like a really good thing to protest. Like, people were like, oh, you're anti-military. It's like, nah, I'm pro people breathing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm pro leaving your house.
Fairness.
Exactly. Leaving your house, getting stopped by the police and making it home. Like, because of whatever situation. That's what I'm pro.
Facts.
Bro, you didn't get none of that?
Son of a man.
I need that close up. What's up, world? How you doing?
We got the audio. Is it back on? No, it's probably full. Got it.
All right.
Okay, that's fine. We'll just keep recording. It's crazy in that sense. I think that he won't get a job unless things were to like simmer down, like in a few years.
Yeah.
Right.
I can see them icing them for a while.
Yeah.
And taking the rest of his prime. That would fucking suck.
Because I think there's too much heat around him as a figure.
Yeah.
To the point where if you're
Mike Vick tried to tell him. He saw what they did to me over dogs.
Yeah.
But then at that point with Michael Vick, it's like, what is it worth? And I feel like
all he did was own a house.
Right.
Come on, nah.
Well,
he wasn't at the dog. He wasn't like selling tickets to the dog fights. You know what I'm saying?
No, but still, there's still some ownership there. But even regardless of that,
it does not warrant what happened to him.
No, definitely.
No.
And he made it back to the league. He was killed a man. And won 2 Super Bowls.
Yes, there are a lot of people who shouldn't be employed at their job right now for various reasons. We're talking about Colin Kaepernick. But in terms of Michael Vick's commentary, I think it's a question of like, do you want to like give in, or maybe not give in, but like, if I want a job so bad, am I going to say yes sir, no sir, yes
right?
Sir,
No, I don't agree.
You know what
I was definitely being facetious. I was kidding, because
that was a factor too. But I think he won't get a job. I think it'll be easier to not, because if anyone's who hiring him now it's a lot of heat behind that.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of stuff attached to that to say, yeah, we'll hire him for whatever role.
Currently, you can't really hire him without siding with him at this point.
Right.
And like, I don't know that anyone's really willing to do that.
And he said he wouldn't take a knee. So I think that would be weird in the locker room if you have people taking a knee on your behalf, and you're in the locker room and like you go out to the field and you're not kneeling anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like straight up, that'd be
weird.
That'd be a strange optic.
Super weird.
Be super weird. Be funny though.
It would be funny.
I would now that I would tune in for.
Right.
Everybody's kneeling. He's just standing there with like a microphone.
Yo, whoever hires him, I bet you the NFL, that team will get hella ratings.
Oh, bro.
Bruh.
That's what I was thinking too. Like, it's to me, if I'm like, I look at it this way, to draw a weird parallel. When Donald Trump
making the least amount of money, they should sign him.
They should. I thought about Steve Bannon made a comment
49ers that let him go.
About when Donald Trump had the grab him by the vagina comment,
Mm-hmm.
and Bannon was like, "It won't matter, keep going."
Yeah.
Where everyone else is like, "Nah, it's a wrap for you." It's like, "Nah, you should keep going." So it's always some weird guy in the room is like, "No, this is the best opportunity ever," right?
Yeah.
So for me, when I think about someone like Kaepernick, if I got a crappy team and I'm really thinking about numbers and like merch sales,
Well, I mean, if
ticket
he's
sales,
doing shitty already, it can't be much worse. I'm taking like, why not? People are going to watch. People are going
And
to
he
watch.
might help you win because he's a good quarterback.
right?
Side note, he doesn't suck.
Right?
Some people tune in to watch him lose.
Yeah.
They tune in to watch him win.
People would
right?
definitely tune in to watch him get sacked.
Oh yeah, for
Right?
sure,
For sure.
The betting lines would be crazy.
Oh, man.
So to me, there's some value in saying
Got a
like,
lot of upside.
there's a lot of upside.
He's got a lot of.
A lot of upside.
Questions, protests. I know I'm off camera. I'm sorry about that, but
Now go for it.
you had the guy who was hired. The guy who was gay. He was hired. He was the first gay guy to play in the NFL.
Oh, Michael Sam? He was the first. No, he wasn't the first gay guy to play in the NFL. He was the first gay guy to announce that he was gay before the draft.
Yeah.
He was gay. So
Yeah.
It questions protests. It questions people's true. What's the word I'm looking for? Objectives,
Mhm.
things like that. So does stuff like that, Black Lives Matter, does protest actually matter? Is there change actually happening?
What? Yes, protest. Like protest has always mattered, like since the dawn of time, because how else would somebody else know that we're tired of this BS? You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
Like would we be here without the Nat Turners of the world? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, he didn't, like, that wasn't successful, but it let motherfuckers know, like, you can only do this for so much longer.
Right. Before there are more slave revolts.
Exactly. I mean, was it Haiti?
Who
Was the only like island nation of slaves that revolted like and won? I think it was Haiti. I don't want to like misquote another island.
Let's assume it was. We'll be wrong. It's fine.
Like Trinidad and Tobago over there. It's like,
Right.
no, it was us.
No, man.
But yeah, one of the Caribbean islands, like they successfully did it. So I mean, that's the definition of protest. They protested with pitchforks and knives and ran through everybody's houses and was like, we own this now. So protests are necessary.
And in some cases, it may not even be protests. It's just like moving an agenda and putting the idea in people's brains. And I remember hearing Bernie Sanders talk about that. This reporter was challenging him on healthcare for all, single payer for all. And she asked him, like, I think you know that won't happen. So why are you even talking about it? And his response was, these things take time. We have to talk about them now to get people to do them maybe later.
Yeah.
And this may be a thing 100 years from now, but the fact we're talking about it today means that we're getting it in people's brains
It's put out in you.
to be an idea, right? So we start the train going that way. You may not live to see it, but you set the spark.
I'm so pro single payer for all.
Of course, we all are.
Absolutely.
So I don't think Kaepernick sat like in his room and was like, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to fall on the sword, and then it's going to set off. Trump's going to tweet at me. And then Katie's not going to go to the White House, right? Had this whole like thought chart.
It's gonna be great.
And then when
Have a girl
have
with afro.
right,
Massive afro.
all black quarterback,
Huge.
it's man, crazy.
Ooh, he had that straight up Black Panther afro. My man had that afro sheen. He
did.
And he was going.
I was like, how do you get that on your helmet? That was my thought every time. But no, I think if anything, you say, well, this is what I believe, and I'm just going that way.
Yeah.
And if you have enough thought about it, anything you set forward to do in any sort of agenda where you have like a voice to point it that way, people will, I think, will see it. A young person may see it, an old person may see it, someone else feels the same way may say, you know what, I'm also going to join you in this. It just so happened that he was one who got the most media coverage for it.
I also want to let you guys know that it's not that he was kneeling, because originally he was sitting. It's not that he was sitting or kneeling during the national anthem. It was for what it was about, because there are other players in the NFL who don't stand
up. It's not
up.
the first time that's happened.
No, and I mean, like Marshawn Lynch is one of the most beloved running backs in the game, and he does not stand up for the national anthem. He's never done it in his career. Like, he just doesn't do it. He just sits down for whatever reason. And since this was brought back up, he came back in the league with the Raiders, and people saw pictures of that. And then he was just like, I just don't stand up. You can look. This is something that I don't do. And he told his head coach, and his head coach was like, yo, Marshawn said something. This is something he don't do. I ain't got a problem with it. I come from a military background, so I would want him to stand up, but I respect him as a man. If that's something that he does, then like, that's him. And it was washed away. That was the end of the conversation. So it's not that he wasn't standing, it was why he wasn't standing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, very specifically.
So do you think, is there anything else behind Marshawn Lynch not standing?
I just think he's a thug ass nigga and didn't feel like sitting up.
Right? I feel like he didn't think about it. One day he was tired. I'm not standing up. Fuck that. Like, I have made it. I'm not standing up. Fuck.
This is bullshit. I gotta stand up the whole rest of the game.
Right? I gotta run and shit. You want me
1,000 niggas per game. You know what I'm saying?
Now I gotta stand for no reason? Are you crazy? No, I'm gonna sit down and rest until I need to get up and do something.
Because I always want
you by
standing up for some song. I don't even like this song. I don't know the words or nothing. No
third
chorus.
stanza of this song is definitely about keeping slavery going.
I'm sorry, what?
There's a stanza in the national anthem that we don't sing, in the Star Spangled Banner that we don't sing, that like is about slavery.
Was it edited for content in like 1999?
It was.
Well, wait a minute. Now we can't sing that shit.
It was added after the original Star Spangled Banner, but it was added still back in like the 1800s, some shit like that.
Slaves are great. We should keep them.
Sure. It was like, we should not let them go. We should, keep them motherfuckers where they at.
Keep them in the chain.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I still fucks with the song though. I know people who were like, yo, what about this whole stanza? You shouldn't sing it. And I'm like, yeah, but we don't sing that part. Like, we act like, so most people don't know that part is even there because we don't like overly acknowledge that part of the song.
Right.
Because if we did, motherfuckers would not be singing. Like, I'd be kneeling for the national anthem.
I can't believe that somebody wrote slave carols though. That's crazy.
You can't believe that?
Like, into the national anthem? You're not.
You can't believe that?
Well, I guess I can, but
in hindsight,
I didn't know. I guess I
about?
can't believe I didn't know. How about
like
that?
You couldn't vote unless you were rich and white and owned land and was over 35. Like, you don't believe that. And this is when niggas lived only till their 20s. Like, so
I guess you make songs about, your current, what you're living. So that makes sense. It's just,
I think it was like the year Tupac at the time.
Slavery's popping right now.
Right?
You know what I'm saying? In these streets.
I got this new Hot 16 about why these slaves are awesome. You ain't got to pay them shit. It's amazing.
You know what I'm saying? This nigga was out there spitting bars about whips and chains.
Who knew?
Okay, that's enough. We're going to cut the cameras. All right, folks, it's a wrap. Before you go, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you've got some feedback, if you love the show, don't love the show, or want to give us a shout, any feedback helps. Hit us up across all social media channels at Illest Podcast. You can find me at DJ Illinois across all channels. And again, if you are interested in starting your own podcast, head over to illestpodcast.com/start-a-podcast. DJ Illinois signing off. Thanks for your time. We love it. We love you. We'll see you next week.